Hi guys, welcome back to the channel for another video. Today is another impromptu, unplanned surprise bonus video for the week. So I hope that you are happy to see my face for a second time this week. It is insanely windy in Sydney, so please forgive me if my balcony door is rattling. You can see I've shoved cards in the door to try and keep the tornado out, but it is creepy. Like my chairs have just gone flying across the balcony. But I was sent a video a number of times by you guys over the last 24 hours from Trisha, which they uploaded, I think, yesterday, detailing their eating disorder and some of the distress that they're experiencing around some of their behavioral patterns with binging and wanting to stop binging and not understanding why they can't stop. And this is so common in eating disorders, guys. I hear it from eating disorder recovery coaching clients all the time. I work through it with clients. Really, really clear disclaimer here. I'm not here to treat, diagnose, or offer specific advice to Trisha or anybody else, but more so to use what they're detailing as a bit of a case study because it's so common and there are some really big misconceptions about how we deal with binge eating, particularly with people in larger bodies, which is what they have titled their video, Trigger Warning, Being Fat with an Eating Disorder. And I'm going to echo that trigger warning insofar as what they're sharing because they do detail some stuff that people may find triggering in terms of their eating habits. But I hope this is helpful to people. Exciting news before we get into the video. I am running the Body Neutrality workshop, which I only do about once a year in August. Tickets are at the link in the description box below. It is an amazing week together. I still to this day hear from attendees who have been coming to these from years ago that they still use the workbook, they still use the skills, that it was such a turning point in their recovery and just their body image experience. So it's a presentation, a week in an exclusive forum with new videos and activities every single day with me in there coaching you through everything. It's a live Q&A at the end of the course and your own personalized, beautiful workbook to work through and keep beyond the course. It's really about reducing the preoccupation with what you look like, practical skills and strategies for being able to reduce and stop body checking, to manage bad body image, and to most importantly, start to explore and find worth well beyond your body and what you look like and putting that in its proper perspective. So come and join us. It's going to be an incredible transformative week together. Go and check out that link below. I understand that people have a lot of opinions about Trisha. I have to say that I have as well. I have, talked previously about the fact that their promotion of skinny teas is not great, amongst other things, and also can take people in a nuanced way. I just really would hope that we as people who share this experience can, in this isolated issue, show compassion and empathy because that is what they're asking for. And we know better than anyone how distressing these experiences are around eating disorders. So I'm going to be responding to their video. The whole video is over 20 minutes long, but they don't talk about eating disorders throughout the whole thing. It is only about 6 to 8 minutes. So that's what I'll be responding to. This won't be an hour long. So let's see what Trisha has to say.
Being a fat person with an eating disorder, being anyone with an eating disorder sucks. Being fat with an eating disorder, double sucks because, you don't look like you have an eating disorder, and so people have really no empathy. So I am looking for some empathetic people out there that have this and can share some words of wisdom with me because I'm feeling really down right now.
Unfortunately, Trisha's pretty spot on there in terms of how people in larger bodies with eating disorders can be treated, not only from a social perspective, but in treatment settings and from support systems. And that's largely owing to the fact that we are still holding on to this stereotype of what eating disorders look like, or that the only eating disorders worth addressing or highlighting or having compassion for are these cases that fall into the anorexia diagnosis, which only 3% of overall eating disorder sufferers are dealing with. And even within that diagnosis, many people with anorexia do not look like the emaciated stereotype that so much of the media pushes and that so many of us, recognize as eating disorders. 47% of the eating disorder sufferer population have binge eating disorder, which is what Trisha is stating that they are dealing with. So it's such a sad irony that really the majority of people are dealing with the eating disorder that is disregarded and not recognized, and therefore not shown with as much compassion and empathy as they should be. So that's not the case with everyone. We know that there are more and more HAES-informed clinicians and professionals in the field, and that more and more people are, being educated and trained in a way which hopefully means that these experiences don't become, dominant long term as they have been.
So I have been doing really well as far as exercising and just like eating healthy for meals. And I've been trying to eat like 3 meals a day, been like choosing healthy options for like 3 days of the week. And then if I eat something bad, only 1 meal bad, and the rest healthy choices.
So this language around food, super common, something we absolutely have to help people work through in recovery, is the moralizing of food. Good food, bad food, guilt, cheat, the way that we see food being marketed, sinful, off limits, all this stuff that is such heavy moral language about food. Like, we don't talk about air or water like that, but food is this big moral, I am good or bad for the food choices that I make, right?
So like, okay. So I've been doing good, right? And I don't really weigh myself. I weighed myself the first week, and I'm gonna weigh myself at the month, which I think I've only lost like 10 pounds. But like, honestly, that's a lot, and that's good. And like, I have been like very like lenient with my diet. I've been really strict on exercising every day, but like lenient on my diet. But so I have binge eating disorder, like full-fledged binge eating disorder. Like it's a disorder. Like it's something that it's really hard for me to control. Just like my borderline, like it's hard for me to control. I'm doing my best. I take steps. I go to like an ED specialist. Like I talk to someone about specifically just for food, and then I talk to someone specifically for my mental health. They kind of go hand in hand, but there are like eating disorder specialists because they often overlap. But again, it's good for me to go to 2 different ones because one kind of just focuses more on my eating. The other one kind of ties in my eating, but that's a whole different thing. Anyways,
that is awesome to hear that Trisha has engaged help and specialized help within eating disorders to be able to address some of this stuff. I really, really hope that they are encouraging them to get off the scale. We really don't want people focusing on weight loss when they're recovering, because those two things can't fit together. If your eating disorder is the one with the goal of weight loss, and then in recovery we're encouraging weight loss, then we're encouraging the eating disorder. So really hope that that's part of their treatment approach. And also helping them to unpack and neutralize some of these good and bad food beliefs, right? Because these beliefs that we have about food then set up our behaviors with food. If foods are off limits and some foods are acceptable, but only in certain situations, that's where we start to see patterns bloom from. It's like the weed system that behaviors then come from. If we have off limits foods, that's where restriction comes from. If we have guilt and shame around other foods, that's where binging and purging and excessive exercise comes from trying to get rid of, the food that we don't think is good or that we think is going to do something bad to our body, like, weight gain, etc. So I really hope that they have, treatment professionals helping them work through that.
And we're gonna go to this restaurant, and I was so excited because I wanted a Belgian waffle. I've been like wanting a Belgian waffle so bad, but I've been really pretty strict on like not eating sweet stuff, like sugar stuff, aside from pasta. But I only have pasta like once a week now anyways. I used to have it like literally every day. So I've been wanting this Belgian waffle for so long, and we go to this place and they don't have a Belgian waffle, and I'm like they had other things I could have eaten: eggs, bacon, pancakes, French toast, like whatever, you know what I mean? This was gonna be my one meal. Like my mindset was like, this is my one meal, because when I do eat bad meals, this is really bad, but if I'm being completely honest, I'm gonna tell you, like if I do eat a thick meal, like a pasta or something really heavy, I just eat that one meal a day. I try and eat it around like 3 o'clock or whenever, but usually like between noon to 3, and then I'm not hungry the rest of the day. And it kind of works for me. It's not really good, especially if you have binge eating. Like you're really, really not supposed to do that.
This is really interesting that they're saying, this works for me, but also expressing distress around the pattern that this is part of, right? That then they're going to start talking about the fact that then there's binging at the other side of this restrictive interaction with food. Having one meal and this predetermined thing that's like, if I have that food, again, conditions, if I have that food, then I will just have one meal that day. And I won't listen to my body outside of that because I've already put a rule in place. Your body doesn't care about rules. Your brain doesn't really care about rules. If it's being restricted from food, very likely what will then happen is then we'll see binging as a result. It's a pendulum, right? If you restrict, you can only do that for so long for many people before it swings back the other way, binging. And then we feel shame and guilt. And what do? We go, oh, restrict. That'll make me feel better and that'll mean I'm doing well. And then what happens? Physiologically and psychologically, our body and brain start to react to that. We get access to the food and we binge, guilt and shame, swing back to restriction. This is why the cycle is relentless. And everyone's trying to fix, well, not everyone, but many of the people I talk to are trying to fix this end. They don't like the binging. They're okay with the restriction, but they don't like the binging. So Mia, let's work on this. This is the starting point. The restriction is what's kicking all of this off and fueling your body's need to get food in because it knows it's heading back to restriction land soon, right? And then there's the coping aspect of it too. When you're restricting, if you have comorbidities, as Trisha has said that they do, then you probably have heightened anxiety and low mood. You restricting is only going to make your heightened anxiety and low mood worse. So then you are using binging to cope and to numb your feelings. And then guilt and shame, and then it all starts again. See, it's all part of this. We tend to zoom in on binging and go, I don't like this. Nope, you got to look at the whole pattern and the whole picture. So this is restriction. Choosing to eat one meal in a day and saying, I will not eat outside of this. It's mental restriction. It's physical restriction. We know we have different kinds of restriction. We have restriction by the amount of food, that we're not eating enough. Then we have type of food restriction, which is cutting out carbs, or I'm not going to eat pizza, or I don't eat chocolate anymore. That's restriction. And then we have mental restriction, the patterns that you're setting up in your head, the belief systems, the rules, the rigidities, the conditions that then the behaviors come out of, right? And there's a couple of those that Trisha within a couple of minutes has already expressed that they're dealing with, but going like, I just hate the binging. I've got to get on top of the binging, so I'll stop eating and I'll exercise more. That's the fuel. Binging is the next domino that's going to fall, right? Not the first one.
Even weeks before, usually I crash diet like the week before my music video, but like 2 weeks, 3 weeks prior to my music video, I'm like watching what I eat. It started June 21st. Okay, it's almost like, yeah, we're almost coming up on a month of it. So I was like, I'm so sad I have this Belgian waffle. They didn't have it. And I got really sad. Like, I started tearing up and I felt really embarrassed. Like, I could see my eyes watering. And Moses was like, let's just go somewhere and get it. And I was like, no, it's fine. Like, because in that moment, I started feeling embarrassed. That I'm like, really? I'm going to like, we just parked into this like nice hotel, walked through, sat down, ordered orange juice. And I'm going to leave because like, I'm just so fat that I need a Belgian waffle. Like,
oh, Trisha, you don't need to feel embarrassed by that. That's a very, very common thing and a real sign, not only to you, but for other people to see this as a PSA. If your response to food, having it or not having it, is resulting in extreme high emotion, that is a warning sign. I say this to clients all the time. Food is not meant to feel like drugs. It's not meant to feel like a class A illegal drug. Like, have to have it, feeling shame about it, feeling guilt about it, doing it in secrecy, oh my God, this is going to feel amazing. And then the crash afterwards. Food is meant to be pretty neutral. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It's enjoyable. It's social. It can be nostalgic. It can be delicious. But if you're experiencing high and low emotion from your interaction with food, that's indicating that we're using food for something much deeper than just what the food is, right? And some of that self-talk that they're referring to, I'm so fat that, I can't even, you're distressed, you're in distress. That's okay. I mean, it's not okay that you're in distress or that anyone's in distress, but it's a symptom. This is not a character flaw in anyone. If you're experiencing this is a symptom of the eating disorder.
I was like, no, it's fine. Like, we're here. He's like, well, they have eggs and bacon, but I'm like, I'm mad. I'm pissed that they don't have the Belgian waffle. Like, that's what I wanted, which is like, and then I'm mad at myself for being pissed about this because like, I'm really let food controlling my emotions like this. Like, this is so I started like this spiral of like feeling like pissed, and then also just like hating myself. And then I just decided not to eat the rest of the day. I don't want to eat. He's like, I'm going to go pick up steaks for dinner or something, because it's like something that's like a good meal that I like, that doesn't make me feel bad. And I was like, no, I'm not hungry. I'm not eating. Like, I don't. And I know myself, because I'm going to go throughout this whole day not eating, and all night, like, I'm not going to eat. And then maybe tomorrow I'll still be wallowing in some self-pity about this. And then like Friday, I'm just going to go ham, and I'm going to like, let's go to the movies. Let's get pasta. Let's do all this, and like get popcorn and nachos. And I'm going to binge for the weekend. And then I'm going to be, you know what, Monday, it's fine. I'll get back on it.
There's a great level of self-awareness here. But I think that Trisha's seeing that inevitable binge as like weakness and lack of willpower, and that she knows she's going to cave. No. They're having a totally understandable response to periods of restriction from both a physiological and a psychological perspective. It's kind of inevitable that if you are denying yourself food and talking to yourself about it in a way, and physically restricting food from yourself, that by the time you get access to it, because of the pendulum, your body and brain knows we're going back to the restriction end. So of course it's going to try to fuel itself as much as it can, and you're going to be distressed and anxious by that point, and you know, lift your mood and get rid of the anxiety, and food becomes that outlet along with the physiological. It becomes a coping mechanism, and it becomes a totally natural, understandable response to not eating, and not eating adequately and regularly. So this is what I mean by people don't take issue with their restriction as much as they do their binging. Your restriction is responsible in large part for your binging much of the time. So the answer here is to eat regularly and adequately, which to people with binge eating disorder or any kind of binging behavior, that's scary to them, especially people with eating disorders in larger bodies. They're like, no, I can't, because binging to me represents distress, which means eating represents distress, which means eating regularly and adequately. I couldn't do that, because what if I do that and I binge? In the long term, that is not what we see. We get people eating adequately and regularly and with a variety of foods, and neutralizing all their fear foods and anxiety foods, and the binging decreases until it goes. Same can be said of, you know, the parts of binging that you might be using to cope, because yes, some of it's because of restriction and some of it might be because of coping. A large part of it is very often because people are restricting. And then we deal with the part of you that's using it to cope, right? But just by virtue of feeding yourself regularly and adequately with a variety of foods, that deals with the binging, because you're dealing with the restriction and the restrictive mindset. So it is scary to people when I say to them, we got to fix your the fact that you binge by eating, and that doesn't make sense to them because they've been in a pattern of trying to fix their binging by not eating, which is the problem, right? These illnesses are a mind F. I wish that I wasn't censored by YouTube. But yeah, this is why I wanted to do this video, because this is so common, guys. This is so common, and people think that their binging makes them a bad person and it's their weakness and character flaw. No, it is such a natural response to all these other patterns and to the illness itself. It's not a fault in you. It's a symptom. It is a symptom of the eating disorder.
Because I'll have my weigh in like next Wednesday. That'll be like a month. And this is the pattern that I make. And then when I eat food, I'm like so happy and I'm such in a good mood. And I'm like, it really sucks having food control you and your emotions, because I can't control my food. My food controls my emotions. Therefore, I can't control my emotions either.
Food is not controlling your emotions. You are using food to control your emotions. Your emotions are the reason why you're interacting with food in this way. Very often, you know, we give food this huge power and this too much credit, honestly, as opposed to the fact that, you know, it's the mental illness, it's the patterns, it's the self-talk, it's the restriction is responsible for food feeling out of control, or you feeling out of control of food. It's not the food, it's the stuff up here that we've got to address.
All that to say, I know I'm going to be okay. I know I'm going to wake up tomorrow and feel better, but like, I don't know how to stop the binge, because I feel my mindset I already know what I'm going to do. Like, I already know what I'm going to do, and I can't stop that. what do I do to stop that? You know what the logical answer is? Like what I've learned, but I can't apply, is eat some dinner so you're not starving, that you can show your body that you can eat.
Yes, the self-awareness there is amazing, and that is what I would encourage them to address within their treatment, is implementing that and working through the fears and the anxieties about why eating regularly and adequately is scary. And it is an added complication to go through recovery in a larger body because of the stigmas around weight, because of really bad health information out there as it relates to weight. We do have more HAES-informed clinicians and coaches and dietitians and doctors. It is improving, but I absolutely have so much sympathy and empathy for anyone who is going through recovery in a larger body, because this is a totally understandable fear about returning to regular adequate eating. But that is very often the answer, especially when we've got patterns like this at play. So I can totally understand their hesitation and anybody else's hesitation to do that, but we can't stop the cycle unless we address the beginning of the cycle, which is restrictive thinking and restrictive eating.
I don't know. If you struggle with eating disorder of any size, like, you're valid. It's actually very normal. A lot of people, actually more people, struggle with it than probably even know or probably even been diagnosed with it. And yeah, you can function in this world, but it's really hard. And
so that's essentially the portions of the video where Trisha talks about their eating disorder and sort of their confusion and distress. I hope that this is helpful to anybody who kind of resonates with what Trisha is expressing there, which so many, I hear about it all the time. I see it in clients all the time. I hear about it in my inbox, my Instagram, all the time. It is so common. I am not pretending to speak to navigating recovery or an eating disorder in a larger body. I have been in a larger body at points of my life, but I'm not here to say that I understand this experience. But please know that no matter what body you're in, as Trisha said herself, no matter what body you're in, no matter what diagnosis or non-diagnosis you have, you can recover. You are entitled to recovery. You're entitled to ethical and responsible treatment. That no matter what body you're in, we have to help people fix this and stop reinforcing their fear of weight gain or being at a certain weight or fear of certain foods, which we are doing to people going through recovery in larger bodies. They are getting a different kind of treatment than other people. Again, let's show compassion and empathy, because we can all understand this kind of distress with an eating disorder history. But yeah, sending you all so much love. I will see you very soon in a brand new video. Much love. Take care. See you next week. Come and join us for the Body Neutrality Workshop. It is going to be amazing. Bye, guys.